6:30, and seeing we have a quorum, I bring this meeting to the Easton Conservation Commission to order November 15th, 2021. Please note, in keeping with the emergency order from Governor Baker to limit gatherings, legislation passed to address remote board meetings during the emergency declaration. This meeting will be conducted over Zoom. Attendance by the board and commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. This meeting is being recorded, both audio and video, by ECAT, and please note that. So anybody who who isn't here would already know how to join, but the Zoom link is in the upper left-hand corner of the agenda. Just for the purposes of quorum, I just need to take a roll call attendance. Callfell's here.
Errol here. Spadu here.
Okay, seeing that we have a quorum, we're going to proceed. Please note, before we get started here, that 170 Chestnut Street has requested a continuance that wasn't on the original agenda. So they have requested a continuance to some future date to be decided a little bit later, but at least into December sometime. I think other than that, we're ready to go. Before we do start, as I understand it, all of butters notifications have been received on hearings that are initiating tonight. So first up is 218R Center Street, 950R and 100R Washington Street. This is a notice of intent for installation of Pfas treatment buildings. So I'm not sure who we have to bring up here. I'm sure.
Maria and maybe Greg Swan.
Okay. They can tell us if anybody else needs to come up. So. Oh. Who's Adam?
Yep, they're with them too.
Environmental partners.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you, I don't know who's going to take the lead on your side there?
I will, if I could share my screen. Thank you.
Sure. Just, is there anybody else I need to bring up? We got everybody we need.
You've got the three of us. Greg Swan, I think, from the town will start. And then I'm Adam Cran with Environmental Partners. I'm with Maria Peru, the Environmental Partners as well.
Okay, good enough. You guys definitely can share your screen. So,
okay.
Why don't you, just before we start, I just want, in case there's any public here, just understand the format of the hearing. So the applicant will make a presentation, describe the projects for us, and highlight any particular issues. They'll have an opportunity to share the plans on the screen for the public to see as well as us. And then additionally, once that follows, the staff person, Jennifer, will give us a report of some of her own observations and comments. And then the commission members will have an opportunity to ask questions. And then we go from there. Okay, so it's up to you guys.
I'll start. Good evening, everybody. It's good to see you all here tonight. The town of Easton for the last year has been in the design of Pfas treatment plants. The town of Easton, under new DEP regulations a couple of years ago, got some Pfas hits at the wells that we're presenting tonight. And that is, DEP is asking us to treat that well water before we distribute it into the main water system. We do those with Pfas filters, which we will go into tonight. Basically, it's just filters with granular activated carbon. We wash the water through it and then send it on the way for the rest of the treatment. And because of the nature where we're siting the plants, they have to be close in proximity to our existing wells, which puts them in proximity to wetlands. And that being said, if anybody in the public has questions about PFAS, they can go to the Town of Easton website under DPW, under the water, and there's all sorts of information about what PFAS is, about what we're doing to treat it. If you have any further questions, you can contact me at DPW or Rich Tierney at the Water Division. Our information can be found on the town website page. So without further ado, I will turn this over to Maria and Adam to give a presentation for Conservation Commission.
Thanks, Greg. Bear with me while I share my screen. Okay, so you should be able to see the PowerPoint presentation. Great.
Yep.
So yeah, as Greg mentioned, we are constructing PFAS treatment buildings at 3 well stations, wells 1, 2, and 4R. So the wells are all located along Quessett Brook between Washington Street and Center Street. Well 2 is located off of Gary Lane. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but it's sort of in the lower left of this figure. And then wells 2 and 4R are located just north of well 1 off of Washington Street. So as Greg mentioned, the purpose of this project is to treat and remove PFAS from the public water supply through the use of GAC filters, which is granular activated carbon. Again, we can go more into the treatment if you have specific questions on that, but tonight it's really about the wetlands and the resource areas. So
yeah, this is a point. So I think we're going to try and stay on the wetlands and wetland resources tonight. Certainly if there becomes public questions there, I'll probably direct them to have some of those conversations if it's not about the wetlands and wetland resources offline. I know there's a lot of questions about this, but I think there's been a lot of discussion about it as well. So I just want to keep us focused on the wetland and wetland resources. So I just want to reinforce that point. So
great, thank you. So for this treatment, there will be a new treatment building at each of these sites, and then to treat the backwash waste, there will be backwash drying beds and some slight modifications to the existing well stations, including utilities between the existing well station and the new buildings. So again, we have another figure showing the resource areas associated with each of these well sites. So at each of the wells, there is a 400-foot wellhead protection zone that we need to stay out of just to protect the source water. But then we also have land subject to flooding, bordering vegetated wetlands, a potential vernal pool, and the DEP wellhead protection area zone 2, which is all encompassing. So at well station 1, we will have sediment controls outlining the limit of work within the wetland resource area buffers. So around the existing well station, which is located page north on this sheet, there's wetlands on all 3 sides. So that area will be protected by filter stock. Since our original submission to the commission, we have revised the layout of that filter stock just to facilitate construction access. And then page south, the other area circled in the bubble orange, we added filter stock around the area to the south that's land subject to flooding. And so in that southern area, we are locating the new treatment building and the backwash drying bed. There will be some disturbances to the wetland zones for utility installation, but these are unavoidable based on other obstructions on site. And then for the backwash drying bed, there will be some grading within the 50-foot land subject to flooding buffer zone. But again, that's unavoidable because we need to maintain the 400-foot wellhead protection area. We have no proposed impervious area within the wetland buffer zones or the resource area, no disturbances to the resource areas. And finally, we do have a stabilized construction exit along the access road that leads out to Gary Lane to prevent any sediment from tracking into the residential area. At wells 2 and 4R, we have similar provisions. So on this one, well 2 is located page right. That's the existing well station. And then well 4, the existing well station, is page left. The well 2 treatment building will be where the access road splits off to go right to well 2 and left to well 4. And then the backwash drying bed again has been located outside of the 400-foot wellhead protection area for each of those wells. And then our well 4R treatment building is located close to the existing well station. And that one has been located outside the 100-foot buffer zone for wetlands, land subject to flooding, and potential vernal pool area. Jen's staff report did identify the isolated vegetated wetland area as both potential unconfirmed land subject to flooding and a potential vernal pool based on her site walk. We're calling it unconfirmed land subject to flooding because we don't have the grading to support that calculation. So again, we have filter sock for sediment control within the buffer zones, and we have a stabilized construction of it on the shared access road to prevent any sediment from exiting onto Washington Street. Okay, so this project also includes significant grading at well 1 to allow for gravity flow to the backwash drying bed. So yeah, there'll be some fill in that area, and then the drying bed will be built up from existing grade. In terms of stormwater management, our BMPs include roof drains to sediment forebays, discharging over a level spreader to a vegetated filter strip, and finally providing infiltration in a stone infiltration trench. So this system meets our TSS requirements and standard 2 and 3 for recharge rate and water quality volume.
Maria, sorry.
Yep. Yeah.
Can you use your mouse to show these things?
I don't think you can see it.
I can see it moving.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I should have been doing that all along. Okay, so this is our treatment building here. It's going to have a shed roof, and then there'll be roof leaders directing the runoff to 2 sediment forebays, which are here. And then they'll have a level spreader out to the vegetated filter strip, sloped to this stone infiltration trench. Currently, a decent amount of this area is bare, sandy soils. So our goal is to reestablish that with grass as a part of this project. So at well 2, we have a slightly different stormwater treatment system. Again, the building will have a shed roof that will discharge the gutters off onto a vegetated filter strip, which is located here, and direct the runoff to a bioretention planting area over here. And then this is the shared backwash drying bed for wells 2 and 4R. At well 4, again, we have a shed roof. They'll discharge onto a gravel utility area in the back of the building. And then runoff will enter a grass channel that will be constructed with check dams in a relatively shallow slope to direct water down this way to our bioretention planting area. So here's some of our sediment control details. We have a filter sock with the overlapping ends, and these will be overlapping on the ground, not stacked vertically. And then we have a stabilized construction exit made of crushed stone. And this would be cleaned out by the construction period contractor as necessary when sediment builds up behind the filter sock or within the construction exit. So as a part of this project, as Greg mentioned, we have to disturb the wetland buffer zones just due to the nature of the site. So we are requesting waivers from the Town of Easton Code for impacts to the vernal pool, vegetated wetlands, land subject to flooding, the buffer zones associated with that. And then finally, we have some administrative items that we just wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page with us. We would like to request a condition of approval for the stormwater pollution prevention plan for the construction period contractor to submit that 45 days prior to starting work for your review and approval. And then the stormwater report is under peer review at the moment. So once we receive comments back on that, we can update the plans and report for your final approval. I think that's it. So at this time, if anyone has questions, we can do that. Or if you would like to vote on the waiver request, we'd also be interested in that.
Jennifer, you want to give us some feedback here?
Sure. They received office report and an email with some clarification on some of the plan changes that were requested, and we talked about it last week. So we know that all the plan changes would be done in one plan revision, one plan set, so we're not wasting a lot of paper and time. Actually, Maria, if you would stop sharing, that would be great. Thanks. And so she just sent over the revised waiver list today. And like Maria said, Ty and Bond is reviewing the stormwater. Once we see their report, we'll know if any other plan changes are required.
So can I just get some clarification? So I didn't get a chance to review any of the documents sent today. I've done all my work over the weekend. So is the waiver request complete at this point? Because I know when I looked earlier, it was incomplete. So
Yeah, I think they're complete now.
okay.
Yeah.
Maria, can you just clarify for me if work is going to be done in the actual wetland itself as opposed to the wetland resource area buffer zone?
There's no work proposed with any of the resource areas that we discussed, just some buffer zone impacts.
Yeah, we have to be incredibly careful in Easton because we consider the buffer zone to be a resource area. So I have to be a little bit careful about how I answer those questions. I know what you're saying. I want to be clear here that we're not doing work in the vernal pool. We're not doing work in the vegetated wetland. We're not doing work in isolated land subject to flooding. I just want to get that on the record. So, yes,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
Confirmed.
So the waivers we're seeking here are due to because we're working within the no disturb zone buffer zone, which is the 50-foot on the vegetated wetland, isolated land subject to flooding, and the 100-foot and the vernal pool, potential vernal pool. So just for the record, to be clear here, I think that from my standpoint, certainly having been out at these sites, the siting of these is about the best you're going to get on these sites. I mean, you're very tight where you could possibly put things. You know, these sites are tucked typically way back into the off the roads. Even Gary Lane, which is close, it's pretty well tucked back in. In fact, I've been down Gary Lane and I didn't realize the well was there. You know, I actually had to walk in to find out where the well was, so which is good. It's the way it's supposed to be. I was a little bit, and maybe Greg, you give us some feedback. There's some vehicle tracks that are in that sort of sandy pit area where you're going to do the work. Is that ATV activity?
Yeah, we can, you know, we have this problem not just at these sites, but we have these problems at all the well sites in town. We try our best to make it as secure as possible, but people find their way in. We do the best we can with what we have, but at the end of the day, we can't be, you know, we can't be enforcing no trespassing. You know, people are going to go in and find their way in, and you know, they use Red Mill Road as an example. They use that for a walking path. That's going to be one of the challenges during construction this spring, is making sure pedestrians are aware that construction is going on. It's going to be safe. It's the same here. If there's an open path, people are going to walk down it and see what's going on. We try to discourage it, but we can't really prevent it.
Yeah, no, I believe me, we've had this conversation a number of times over the years. And I think you and I probably have even had this conversation once or twice. And I'm just sort of pointing it out as a construction detail that you're going to have to sort of protect your construction area from whatever activity is going on there. So
I don't think it'll be an issue during construction. The contractor will be responsible for the area, and they have a certain, you know, DPW is operation and maintenance. Construction, you know, contractors build things, and they're going to have a little bit more site security for their equipment on site, and they're going to be responsible for that. So that's their means and methods how they come about that. They'll definitely be, you know, the companies that do this type of work. This is primarily what they do in the water field, the wells and treatment plants. They're not strangers. This is a common problem, not just in the Commonwealth, but all over the Northeast. So I think they'll be well prepared for it. And be ready to handle the problem if it comes up.
Great. Is the intention here to have us vote on a set of plans where we're not sure if there's going to be changes to them? No? Do we have to worry about the stormwater, you know, review changing anything?
Rory, I did a cursory review of the stormwater layout for what we had. If there are any changes, they'll be minor in detail. If they are so significant that we need to, you know, impact what's approved tonight, we will come back. You know, if you were to come back in tonight and approve these plans, if any changes need to be made that were so significant that changed the nature of the stormwater treatment options, we could always bring them back and just bring it back to Concom and say, these are the changes that we made based on what we found. Of course, I leave that up to the board to make the commission to make that decision, but I don't foresee this changing. This is a very small footprint. You know, it's a glorified metal shed with runoff and treatment. It's a very small area that needs to be handled.
Right. No, I mean, you seem to, at least by the plans, I think you're trying your best to address the stormwater management on those buildings. You know, it certainly is the right approach. Let's put it that way. You're taking care of velocity. You're taking care of filtering. I mean, you're doing the best you possibly can here. You know, as far as stormwater is concerned. But I'm not the stormwater guy. You know, so I know the basics enough to get me in trouble. So.
Well, and that's why we're having Ty and Bond review this as part of their operations. They did the same thing for Red Mill Road.
Right.
And it's Environmental Partners credit at the time. There were very few tweaks. There was a couple of minor adjustments that made no direct impact to the plans at that time. I do understand these are 3 different sites with different impacts, but I'll leave that up to the commission. If they want to approve it tonight and we have to come back, I will bring the plans back myself and show what the changes were, but it's up to you guys.
Any other questions from the commission members? And I'll circle back on one issue.
think I might have just froze for a second. My one question on this is the backwash area. Could someone just explain how that's used, how frequently it's used, volume of water through that area?
Yeah, so for startup of the filter system, so like right after construction, the filters will need to be run to waste for a short period of time, just to sort of like flush everything out and test them. So that's when you'll have the most water discharging to those basins, and that's what they've been sized for. I think it's like 1,000 gallons per minute for half an hour. Adam can correct me, but he's nodding. And then after that, the filters need to be periodically backwashed, and periodically means once every month or so. And that'll be determined based on operational parameters that the Easton Water Division staff monitor. And at that point, they'll be backwashed at a lower flow rate. It's only like 680 gallons per minute. And so those drying beds have been designed to retain that amount of water for the duration of the backwash. We assume that infiltration happens once backwashing is complete. So in no case should they overflow. Adam, do you have anything that you want to add?
Just to mention that we're also including a hydrodynamic separator for pre-treatment as well of anything that's coming up.
Okay. Anything else, Ben?
That's all I had. Thank you.
Mike?
And I'm all set. It sounds good to me.
So, just as I don't know if we want to discuss I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the waiver request. I just pulled it up now. I know it was just submitted today, I think. So, I don't know if you had a chance to review it or you want to take some time to review it. I don't know if Maria or Adam or Greg wants to speak to the waiver request. Remember, we're trying to deal with 3 issues here, right? And in the waiver request requirements are alternatives have been evaluated and the best siting has been chosen, and no permanent impact on the wetland resources, which include the buffer zones, right? And then also public interest. First of all, public interest, I'm not even quite sure we have to talk about, because this is a slam dunk. We're doing this specifically for public interest, but we probably state that when we talk about granting the waiver. I'll probably specifically state that obviously the removal of PFAS from the drinking water is a public interest and therefore meets the public interest requirement just for the purposes of formality. But I don't know if you want to speak to those things, Ben, Mike. If you had a chance to look at it, you want to talk about the waiver request tonight?
I mean, I've had a chance to look at it. I think the public interest overrides on this, and I'm okay with what's been proposed.
Okay.
And same, I didn't look at it, and I think it's completely fine.
Okay, so I think certainly from Jen, do you have any comments on the waiver request? You felt it was fine before?
Yeah, I don't have any issue with the waiver request.
So I think if we just for the feedback to the applicant is that I think that we're probably in a position to grant the waivers on this. We'll do that as part of the entire vote on this particular application. So I think that what's been submitted is sufficient to meet the waiver request requirements. We'll probably just add verbally in that the public interest is being met through the removal of PFAS from drinking water. So I think that we don't have any questions on that particular issue here. So Jennifer, we don't have a set of conditions for this yet, correct?
No, because you don't have a stormwater review yet. So that will happen at our, well, will happen before our next meeting.
Okay,
That's the same night as the planning board meeting, so they will also be discussing stormwater. So it's my suggestion that you continue to the next meeting, but they'll have a draft set of conditions ready, and we're expecting that all the stormwater would be reviewed at that time.
okay. So we should probably continue and not close. We'll continue in case something comes up. We have an opportunity to still discuss it. Any questions from the applicant on the process here? We're going to continue to our next meeting so we get stormwater, and we'll reopen the hearing for the purposes of continuing that discussion, making sure we don't have any additional questions, and then we'll close the hearing and then go to a vote. Okay. So any other comments from anybody before I open up the public comment? Okay, so is there any public comment for the well work at wells 1, 2, and 4R? That's 95R and 100R Washington Street and 218R Center Street. Just raise your hand or put something in the chat and I'll recognize you and can bring you up. Okay, so seeing none, I'm gonna assume it's okay to continue this unless you guys object. Okay, so we're gonna continue to our next meeting, December 6th. I make a motion to continue to December 6th. I need a second.
Need a second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Errol, I.
Beatty, aye.
Okay, so that was Caulfield's with the motion, Spady with a second. Vote was 3-0 to continue. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Okay. Okay, so next up is 43 Tanglewood Drive. This is a notice of intent for a septic upgrade, and we will recognize Peter Lyons from Components Engineering. Okay, Peter, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep, good.
Awesome. I'll get my screen up for us. Can we see that?
It's coming. There we go.
Coming. All right. We'll start here and then I can move around as we need. I'll jump into it. Should be a pretty straightforward one. For the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering Group, representing the homeowner at 43 Tanglewood Drive. This is a existing 4-bedroom home with a failed septic system in the front yard. It's just under a half acre on the total lot area. The lot line kind of cuts right through to the southern portion here where my mouse is gone. This is actually a paved driveway to the abutter's property in the rear. So there's a wetland resource to the south that is separated from our property by this paved driveway. And then there's an additional wetland area in the back of the property. The 50-foot buffers are shown in orange on the plan, and the 100-foot buffer, basically, there isn't much room to work outside of the 100-foot buffers. Here's the 100-foot buffer line, cuts right through the middle of the front yard. Our basic concept here was just to keep everything in the front yard as far away from both areas as possible. We are contending with the existing driveway, so we don't really want to rip up the driveway. We also have the gas line running underneath the driveway that we need to maintain separation to. So the numbers on this one, we're as close as 72 feet to this flag A2 here, to the corner of the field, and the tank is as close as 62 feet. That's to capture the existing plumbing that comes out of the house right here. We have proposed erosion control measures around the entire project, shown by the dashed gray line here. The proposed system is occurring in an existing lawn area, so it's previously disturbed. After construction, there will be no changes in grade. So, you know, a week or two of the construction, and then it'll look like nothing ever happened here. We have proposed a series of conservation posts around the property, a total of 7 of those located pretty much along the existing fence line in the back here, and then at the edge of the subject property, right on the property line, which is 30 to 40 feet from the resource areas to the south. So that's about it. A couple other little things. We are proposing silt stacks to protect the catch basins in the road. Soil stockpile area is shown outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, as well as the dewatering pit location. The plan has all of our normal details, keeping the site clean. Contractors, you know, to give their information to the Board of Health. I'm not going to read through all those. The site is located in an area of environmental concern. That's the basics of it. I guess I'll take any questions.
Jennifer?
Are you accessing from the driveway or from the street?
Let's see. Looks like it's probably gonna be done mostly from the street, because this driveway to the south here is not ours. So although that would probably be the easiest route into the house, I can't confirm that they would have permission to do so. We also have underground utilities, so they're probably gonna stay away from that and access it from the road, would be my guess.
Okay, then you probably want to adjust your sediment controls because you won't be driving over them.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what they did. Sometimes we have a note saying that it could be taken down during the day. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, note number 10. Sediment controls along the street can be removed during work hours.
Okay. And the homeowner doesn't need to access their driveway with the soil piles in the way, or it's only going to be there a day and won't matter?
I mean, we're not going to block anyone in, but no, they might have to park out in the street for a day or two.
Okay.
Yeah, as mentioned, the intent is just to keep it out of the 100-foot buffer, and there's really no other place to do that.
That's fine. So there was some compost in that southern wetland. The abutter thought it may be from, I sent the letter to the abutter thinking it was them doing that. They think it might be the maintenance or the lawn care company for number 43.
Sure.
So we'll just have to follow up with that and just get that little bit of compost removed from the wetland. It's near flag 7 and 8, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and I put the note that the conservation markers might not be needed, but that was before I did the site visit, so maybe they are needed after all, just to make sure the landscaping company doesn't continue to bring things across the abutter's driveway into the wetland. But that's all I have.
No questions on my part, except if we were to do on the northern side of the fence, should they just attach a wetland, conservation marker on the fence as opposed to putting in other posts?
Yeah, they could certainly do that. That wetland area seemed like a lot of upland vegetation and didn't really notice the hydrology. So I'm not quite sure if that's a wetland or not.
Okay.
Could I propose maybe, there's a pretty significant fence along the northern line. I don't believe anyone's really accessing this. Could we maybe skip these three and keep the 4 proposed along the southern boundary, or?
That would be fine by me. Yeah,
Appropriate. I don't remember seeing a gate there. The butters are certainly dumping compost in there too, but it doesn't look like it's coming from 43.
It's the abutter storage area. So
Yeah.
I would not object to that. Any comments from the commission?
None from me.
None for me, all good.
Okay, we're, I'm just trying to make sure we're here. We don't need any waivers here, so. We're all set here. Any public comment on 43 Tanglewood Drive? Raise your hand and put a comment in the chat box or Q&A. Okay, so seeing none, Peter, I assume you want to close?
Yes, we would.
Okay, so I make a motion to close the hearing. I'm gonna start doing things a little bit differently here after some conversation. So I'm gonna make a motion to we'll make a motion to close, and we'll vote to close, and then we'll just make sure there's no deliberation, and then we'll vote. Okay? So I'll make a motion to close 43 Tanglewood.
Carol, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
ADI.
Okay, so any further deliberation on 43 Tanglewood? Are we all set? We're all set?
All set.
I'm going to make a motion to issue a permit for work and order conditions for 43 Tanglewood, noting that we do not need wetland markers on the northern portion of the property. We will retain the 4 on the southern part of the property. And I think other than that, we're good.
AD second.
Caulfield's, roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
ADI.
Okay, Caulfield's with the motion, Spadia with the second. 3-0. Okay, Peter, we're all set.
All right, do I need to stick around for the COCs later on tonight, or?
Absolutely not.
All right, let us know if there's any questions, I guess.
That is one man's opinion, but I may be the only one other than Jennifer who visited them. So,
The recommendation is to issue them all.
Awesome. All right, thank you all. Have a good night.
You too.
Take care.
okay, next up is 9 Hobart Way. This is a notice of intent for utility installation. Seems like more than that, but
You can.
Ken, yeah, I'm promoting Ken right now. Ken, and I guess Ken can tell us who else to bring up here. Ken, you're up. You can turn on your video and audio. If there's somebody else from the Ken, is there someone else I need to bring up?
I don't think Frank could make it tonight.
Okay.
I texted him, asked him if he was online. He said no. Just to open it up, we are going to continue this, but we're going to work through it to introduce the project to you guys tonight and go through and see what your concerns are. Frank couldn't get the drawings upgraded for Jennifer's suggestions. And I found out there's some trees in the way of moving my driveway, so I want to get them located, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So
Okay.
can I,
Yeah, you can share the screen.
thank you. Let's see, where do I want to start? All right. This is the property. This is number 9 here, 5 and 8 Hobart Way. They enter on an old dirt road. It was part of the Hobart Ames Mansion. And this shows where I'm impacting the buffer zones. This is all down in here. This is a wetland up on top here, drains out through that ditch and down that ditch. So this is the constructed 5. And then I want to shut something off. I gotta move things. Okay. And here's your 2019. Like I said, the road comes in and turns right here and now ends right here. It used to extend across. The old mansion was in here someplace. And this is number 5. Let's get rid of this and let's go to the plan. I gotta stop sharing this, right? It's been a while since I had one of these Zooms. So there is a lot more than just utilities happening here. It's the construction of a single-family home, septic, extending the access drive, and upgrading utilities through here, particularly the water line. There's a 2-inch line. There's an old bridge here, stone bridge. It's beautiful. But there's they buried it in the decking of the bridge, and it freezes during the cold weather. So they have to leave the water running in the homes just to not flood it out. So what we're proposing, and these are the things that we're going to be added to the plan, directionally drilling from here to here with a 6-inch water line, installing a hydrant here, and then reconnecting 5 underground and extending out to number 9 underground water lines. Other utilities, it's the company that's going to do it is Hanker Drill out of New Hampshire. They've worked with DPW, so you can ask questions of DPW about these guys. I say they're pretty good. Do you guys understand directional drilling?
I am aware of it. I've had Greg explained it on one of the sewer connections ones that we did once.
Basically, they're gonna dig a pit up here and a pit down here, and they'll put a small ream or drill bit, and they can control how it goes underground, and they can turn it left and right, things of that nature. So they're gonna go all the way underneath the bridge, the stream, and pop up over here. Now these pits are there to hold the bentonite clay. And that's what holds the reamed hole open. And then if they have to ream back to like go from a 4-inch to the 6-inch that's required for us, they'll put another ream and set of rods on the other end and ream it back. And then they will connect the pipe that they're going to use and drag it through. And in between, they got a suction truck running back and forth, taking the full hole and putting it in the low hole, back and forth, depending on which operation it is. They have a good little cartoon video on their website, and I'll get that to you guys to look at.
So is the intention to go underneath the Queesit Brook?
Underneath Queesit Brook, underneath the bridge. They'll dive it deep, level it out, and bring it back up into the hole. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. You know, yeah. It's got to be all kinds of like electric sensors running. They'll lay on the road or whatever. So that's one major piece for us.
Sure.
Install the hydrant, connect the waters. Now, I know this is difficult to see this brown line. I'm going to turn on AutoCAD for you a second. May I share one more time? Oh. There you go. I tried to highlight the lines, make them thicker for everybody to see. Shut down a bunch of this because we do have a lot going on in this plan. Queesit Brook, 50-foot buffer, 100-foot riverfront. I think this is the 200.
Yeah.
Nope, that's the intermittent stream. There's that ditch that came through the field, intermittent stream.
Right.
Yeah. So this is the 50-foot buffer, 100-foot buffer, 100 of the riverfront, 200 of the riverfront, 50-foot floodplain. This line here is the floodplain. And I believe the way Frank got this, because it doesn't show up in the FEMA maps as flooding in this area, but he took the cross-sectional elevations, I'm using my finger now, cross-sectional elevations coming off the FEMA map for this section. It's an AE section stream, and making those contours fit our property, the elevations of the flood. And that's how he did it. because it floods north of here on the FEMA map. It doesn't flood here. So he took the cross sections and extended it to the elevations present on site. All right. Jennifer, you brought up a bunch of things. Well, here, let's look at this first. This is the brown lines are the existing driveway. And they've been there since the 1800s. I've repeated it several times. This is part of the old Hobart Ames Mansion estate. And so those roads have been there. The driveway's been there for over 100 years. What I'm proposing to do is try to realign it closer to the upland side, these green lines, and create a mitigation buffer, wildlife gardening, wildflower garden planting in here, and then pulling all this section of the road out. That was my intention. Jennifer has concerns because it's right on the wetlands in this corner. I couldn't move it because right there is a phone pole. Electricity comes into a pole here, jumps over here, and then goes underground to number 5, and it's going to be underground to 9 also. But I can't get the road up here. There's like a 2 or 3 foot elevation change in here. So I can shorten it and mitigate for in here, you know, possibly do a ridge or something. So this material heads in this way. She was concerned about the fines and the gravel mixtures they used to make these driveways today and the regrading of them and things like that, long-term effect. It's very tight, you know, in this corner because of that phone pole. So that was one of my problems. Second one, right here is a well, a 6-inch groundwater well. And you're telling me to move back, but I got a turnaround coming out of the garage. This is a garage, this is the main house and decking, and then the leach field's here. What we tried to do when I originally got involved with it, the house was over here. So I got it out of the 50-foot floodplain buffer, and I'm restricted going this way further into the riverfront by a conservation easement, which extends all through here. That's the conservation. We can't do anything over there, is all I know. So when you ask me to move it back, they'd like to preserve this. You know, and I didn't quite understand how you wanted to turn it because this is the garage. Okay.
Are you looking up?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you take the house and just shift this way, it's more of a pivot than a move.
Oh, all right. From the center?
Yeah, that's all I meant, just so that the backyard is where they'll actually be able to have a backyard, it wasn't slide it up and down, it was just pivot.
Rotate it, yeah.
Yeah, it was just a suggestion.
I was going to do it for you, but I'm not going to try.
That's all right. Just to explain what I meant. I didn't mean to slide it around, just a pivot. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you rotate it counterclockwise a little bit, they just go a little bit, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Just gets them a little bit more towards that field in the back.
No, there's actually, this is a house back there.
No,
Right.
Yeah, no, I understand, but
Like that, kind of.
well, I don't think you have to go that far. I think
Not that
I
much.
was talking about rotating it maybe 30 degrees.
Okay. Like that.
More or less like that. Not even that much, but that works as well.
Okay, all right. We'll
Yep.
work on that. We'll work on that. What other issues do we have? I sent you all the easement, the FEMA plan, all the
So
historical.
can the easement, does it say not to have any grading or moving of soil?
That I'm gonna leave up to people who understand those things. It's got a lot of the words in it. I sent it to you. It's very old.
All right, so
We
that's
have to
something
go.
you sent today.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It was upgraded up to you today.
Okay,
Driveway, directional drill, no disturbance zones.
yeah,
Now I'm intending to mitigate for our work within the buffer, like I said, down here along the wetland, this whole area in here. I think I can turn that on too. Wait a second. Just to give you a quick idea of it. This area, I wanted to restore. This is like 40 feet here, but it gets down to like 3, 4 down in this area. And make that a wildflower area. Because the whole area is mowed, as everybody knows. And it's been historically mowed for a long time, you know. So I'm kind of listening to see what you guys want me to do here.
So
Suggestions.
helpful if you point out which portions of the project you don't meet performance standards, and then
The main issue is down here. We got so many overlaying buffers right here. So how do I calculate the impact? I can, like, you questioned the 1443 of the floodplain. That was floodplain buffer, not floodplain itself, okay? And I'm producing 6,300 square feet here. Then I have the 50-foot buffer, which is probably more, looking at it, at what I'm looking at here. So it may be more, because this is the 50-foot buffer here, going all the way around to the property line here.
yeah,
And I'm only giving you 6,000, so I may have to.
it's not so much the amount, Ken. It's just read through the performance standards and tell us if you meet them or not. And when I had asked that, it was not just under the bylaw, it's also under the state law. So I'm guessing is that something that you submitted today as well?
I don't think you're gonna like that draft, but yes, I did submit
You submitted, okay.
responses.
All right, day of the meeting, I'm not gonna have time to read that.
Yeah,
So
I
you
understand.
submitted it, and I'll take a look at that.
I understand that
Okay.
completely.
And so you'll illustrate the driveway relocation and the buffer zone restoration on the plans on
Yes,
the same
yes.
sheet? Okay.
Like I said, that was just scheduling. He couldn't
Yeah.
get to it.
The no disturbance zone markers is one of the questions, right? So you have wetland in the front and wetland in the back.
And on the
So
side.
the commission has posts and markers that they require as the no disturbance zone. So that's something that you need to think about and put on the plan as well.
Okay.
So there's no floodplain alteration. That was just the buffer zone.
Yeah, that was a typo.
Okay, so those, and so the stamp.
Oh.
Yeah.
Frank Radlin did the regrading on this. When I'm doing a wetland restoration, I do the grading. I mean, I've never heard an engineer having to do with the grading issues, but I'm kind of looking at you guys to say, I mean, it's grading. Appropriate slope and distances between the slope as you grade it out. When you design a wetland, Jennifer, you actually sit down and do the same thing.
Or
My engineers are right.
for a plan, the registered land surveyor, their stamp, their certification says they can do existing conditions, they can show the grades that are existing, they can show buildings that are existing, they do the title research, and they tell you about the property lines. That's what their certification, what their stamp means.
Okay.
They don't do the grading. Or septic systems or project design. That they're not authorized to do that. That's just not what their stamp is for.
That's fine. I
Yeah.
will follow up on that one.
Yeah. So engineers are the ones who actually do the project design and the grading. That's their stamp. That's the safety net for the homeowner to make sure that they have a qualified person who has a stamp putting those items on the plan.
I'll take care of it.
That's all. That's the difference. Okay, thank you, Ken.
Okay. Any other questions?
So Jennifer, did you cover everything that you needed to cover?
We covered, yeah, just about all of it, but I understand he's provided additional information today, and that revised plans are coming. So I'm sure before the next meeting, we'll be able to take a look at all of it together and hopefully have a project that's ready for the next meeting.
So I think that one of the things that I know that I saw in the original submission that, and I didn't look today, but was a waiver request. And so I don't know that the waiver request met all the criteria in 50322. So, I think that there's probably some, I think you just probably have to beef up the alternatives analysis that you did. We actually went through one today. So
Okay.
you can add that to the list, but you can also talk about some of the other places that were considered, but they were too close to the buffer zones or whatever they are. I think just to verbalize those type of things. I think also you need to show us that we're not impacting existing wetland resource areas, including the no disturb zones. And the last thing is public interest. So
We will be impacting buffer zone.
right, and so I think that when we do that, I think that you have to show that the overall project it isn't having a
Detrimental effect.
cumulative effect on the wetland resources.
That's fine.
There may be disturbance in one area, but if you're offsetting it another area where you're, especially if you're using 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, 4 to 1, in your
I attempted that.
mitigation
but-
area. That's where we get into what we want to know. That's what Jennifer's talking about. We have to know how much is getting disturbed, right? How much is permanent disturbance? How much is mitigation? Those are all calculations that we have to do, and then you have to make the argument that overall the wetland resources are at least as good, if not better, than they were when we started.
Well, in this first calculation, for example, it seems like 50-foot buffer was 1,149 of a BVW. 50-foot buffer for floodplain was 1,446. So, and then I'm mitigating 6,351 square feet, and that was in the application. But like I said, now I have a tree problem, so there's going to be a recalc. So it just, I'm understanding where you're going with this, and I just want to make sure that when I come in the next time, we're.
Yeah, I mean, if those numbers hold up and, you deal with the trees and maybe you replant a tree or something like that, I think that those are the things that we're looking for when we're looking at buffer zone disturbance. I understand from this plan there's buffer zone disturbance.
Mhm.
I'm just, it isn't that it's an absolute, you just have to show us that the overall plan is not going to have a detrimental impact to the wetland resources.
No, that's fine.
And so I think that your thought process about having this mitigation area is the right one. You just have to show to us that that's going to be enough to offset what the disturbance is for the buffer zone. And and then the last thing is public interest, which is very difficult on a single family property to deal with. I do have an idea, and I don't know if you have an idea.
It is the restoration of the buffer zone.
But that's not the public interest, because if we don't disturb the buffer zone, then we don't have to restore it, right?
So, yeah, but I've got a lot of historically impacted buffer zone. But yet you have an idea, and I've got an ear open here. I don't want to interrupt.
And I think that's true though, because I think that you've got mowed area that's that's been mowed historically, that maybe shouldn't be mowed. I mean, there's stuff out there that's a lot of stuff going on. We have this. I'm not even quite sure what this conservation easement is for. So Jennifer will have to fill in the gap there. I think that and I don't know the circumstances under the what the current water line situation is, and what the problem is. It's only servicing this one home, so it's a little bit of if it was servicing and I know this is a subdivision now because it's 2 homes
In a public way.
Yeah,
Or private way, excuse me.
yeah, but I think the water service improvements is something that may be something for you to consider as when you're trying to calculate that public interest as well. I don't know if it's enough. Certainly, running your water all winter to stop them from freezing is certainly a drain on the water system. So it's a thought process. I don't know if it's enough to consider it, but I'm just trying to be imaginative.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think that some of the buffer zone restoration that you're talking about is probably appropriate as well. So the thing is, when we get down to doing this project, it won't be just about the project. You have to meet the waiver requirements as well. I think that from my standpoint, and I'll let others speak as well, I think that relocating the driveway away from the buffer zone with minimum disturbance is possible. Restoring that area, making sure that the runoff from the driveway isn't going back into the wetlands. And if there's some sort of filter strip or something along those lines that takes care of it as well. I think those are all an appropriate approach here. I think the land is relatively flat. It's already disturbed from the sense that it's not woods. I mean, we're not cutting down 100 trees to put this home in here. So
No.
It's all field at this point. So I'm interested to see what you come back with. I think that the proposal, my first answer to this is not, no way. It's I think that there's something that potentially could be done here. I think you've got to show it to us that it's minimally disturbing. So
yep.
That's my thought process. Anybody else, Ben or Mike?
I would just add that I'm a little bit concerned. I read the language of the conservation easement, and a little bit concerned as to the proposed work, the scope of the work crossing the easement, what's going to be done, and what this property line actually means, where the easement starts and stops. I would just like someone to explain really why the work doesn't fall under the protection of that easement.
I guess someone that can do that.
I think it's a valid concern, and I think that we mentioned a little bit more as earlier is that I don't know what that easement is for. So. And I would like to know because they are obviously just crossing the easement.
That's fine. Mike?
Yes, I'm just we're a little worried with the driveway. There's being a little delicate next to the wetland. The other thought I was kind of thinking is maybe with being fields, if we could restore maybe some of the fields and make those a little more productive for deer or other kind of wildlife around.
Can we go pollinators?
We could do pollinators. That'd be cool too.
I've done enough deer feeding.
That's fine. Pollinators work. Anything that'd be beneficial is to make the fields, be useful. So,
all right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Okay. Do you have any more questions for us?
Not at the moment. There's a lot of questions to be answered first.
Yeah, like you pointed out, there's a lot of lines on this.
Yeah, there are.
And they're intersecting, and you're trying to keep straight which buffer zone. You go from a riverfront into another riverfront area. They cross right into each other. So, it certainly is a challenge to keep track of it all for sure. So I'm just going to go to public comment on this, Ken, if we don't have anything more. So any public comment for 9 Hobart Way? Okay, so seeing none, we're going to make a motion to continue. Is December 6th enough time to do this, or do we think that we need to?
Let me make a run at it. If I'm not there, I'll let you know. It'll be in advance. So
what do we think the likelihood of that is?
Well,
I mean, I'd rather not put it off into a meeting that if there isn't a likelihood for it.
Let's go December 6th.
So Jennifer, when do you need? So that's the week after Thanksgiving. So when do you need the plans by to be able to respond?
2 weeks is great, but 1 week at the bare minimum.
So that's 11/29, which is the Monday after Thanksgiving.
We'll do the meeting after that.
Okay.
Not December 6th, what's the next one?
So the 20th.
Wow, it's getting too close to Christmas.
Okay, so we'll continue to December 20th. So make a motion to continue to December 20th.
Thank you.
Carol, second.
Carol with the second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
ADI.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Here we go. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye. Okay, so next up is 58 Middle Street. And I know we have some sort of conceptual plans here that I want to bring up here. So I'll bring up Mike O'Shaughnessy, and he can tell me if he wants to bring anybody else up. Okay, he should be coming. Okay. Okay, Mr. O'Shaughnessy, you're here. Do I need to bring anybody else up?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Mike O'Shaughnessy. Yeah, could you bring up Garrett Tunison and the engineer as well, Deshang? I think he's sitting in whatever the waiting area is.
Gotcha. Both are being promoted right now. There we go.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and all the members of the Easton Conservation Commission. My name is Michael O'Shaughnessy. I'm here on behalf of Owl Ridge Estates. With me tonight is Garrett Tunison and Deshang Wang. I just kind of want to bring you guys up to speed a little bit. We had filed this. This was originally before you for like 2 years. It was a 6-lot subdivision. The floodplain got adjusted along the way. There was quorum issues, so we asked to withdraw it, and we refiled early in the summer. When I was before you in August, it was just a brief introduction to explain what was going on with the plans. I had met with Jennifer at the time. Subsequently, LEC got involved. We had met with Mark and Jennifer in mid-October to go over some of the issues that they saw. Mark was kind enough to generate a letter for us dated October 25th. The progress plans that we presented to you, what we have to present to you this evening, are a result of those conversations, and they're not all the way there. We think we're steering this in the right direction for you guys to be able to approve this. At this point, I think it probably makes sense for Garrett to jump in and go over where we've now taken the project to and what we're considering. It's our goal to get a final set of plans to you. Based on your last meeting, I don't think we're going to have it for the 6th if Jennifer needs a week or two. So we're really looking at the 20th. And in speaking with Deshang earlier on, I think we can have everything in for the 6th, which should give Jennifer and Mark enough time to do what they have to do. So I guess I'll let someone smarter than me speak at this time. Garrett, if you could kind of go over what's going on, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, good evening. I have a copy of the plan up on my computer, or I don't know if anyone else does, the ones we just submitted. Would you like me to bring it up if I can screen share?
Sure, go ahead. You have the ability to share.
Thank you. So here we have the updated plan I know you didn't have a lot of time to look at this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through every section of the update, just so, this is more for just a discussion to see, as far as the changes that we've made, if there are questions or concerns, we want to address them right now before we go further. We didn't include details with this. Those will be included with the final version. But we did modify the wetlands replication area, which is over here. It was initially over here on this side of the stream. We relocated over here because of as far as the slope is concerned, we're trying to match with the existing grades that were close to the existing wetland. So we only have to cut a foot or two.
Garrett, would you mind zooming in a little bit so we can see what
Yes.
you're talking about? Thank you.
Sorry, hold on a sec. Okay. So I'll zoom in a little bit more.
That's
150.
better, thank you.
You're welcome. Is that good?
Yes.
One more. Okay, so this is initially we had I'll explain where the wetland initially was. It was over here in this area. That's where it was, along with the compensatory storage for the bordering land subject to flooding. Looking at it myself, I thought maybe it should be moved, and also speaking with Jennifer and Mark from LEC, they were concerned about the change in grade and how much we had to dig out, and I agree. So we did relocate it over here, and it matches closely. Here's the wetland boundary right here, and it matches. This grade here is only slightly higher. So what we were trying to do is match in with it's between, looks like approximately 178 at the high point down to 176.5 down here would be the approximate. We'll get a better idea of what that actual elevation is. So we'll cut this area and of course put in the proper topsoil, and we'll cut the upper foot as we should. What we're also going to do is going to leave the trees in place so that we're not cutting large trees, and then we will have a waffled surface or pit and mound topography. So that was also something we discussed, and I agree, I'd much rather see that happen. So the area here will probably be expanded by approximately 20% to make up for the mounds. So that's typically the amount in this sort of forested area that we would have, but we'll take a closer look at that as well. The other thing that's not included is the access to this area. Probably be somewhere up over here when we come in. I'm going to take a look at that tomorrow because I don't want to cut any large trees to access this area. So that's what we're proposing to do. And of course, the wetland replication, I will give you a planting plan, as I typically do, that'll show you where each shrub and tree is going to go. And it'll be native species that I've already identified in the wetlands on the site. So that's the first thing I wanted to discuss. The second thing would be the stormwater basins. Now, I don't know if you recall where the stormwater basin was, basin number 1 on this plan. Initially, it was over here. And speaking with Jennifer and Mark, they had concerns of it being in this location because it was so close to the wetland resources. And it was suggested to move it to the opposite side, so southwest of the previous location over here. And it makes a lot more sense. So we were glad to change the location, and now it's set back further, so it should be outside the 50-foot buffer. And also to reduce basin number 2 over here. And that has also been done. So now this, where the discharge is here of the basin, is just beyond the 50-foot buffer zone. So we now are outside of those areas. This is still considered, basin number 1 is still considered to be an infiltration basin. And basin number 2 has been changed to a detention basin and not infiltration. So those are the changes with the stormwater.
So Garrett, actually that was left from the previous one. So right
Okay.
now with the setback of 50 feet, we can.
It is infiltration?
Yeah, it will be infiltration. So,
Okay.
Yeah, we'll change that. Sorry about that. I missed that.
Oh, that's okay, thank you. So that's that. The other thing I wanted to go to, I'm gonna zoom in more because it's difficult to see. We'll go to 400%. Okay, that's a little bit better. So the area of the culvert, basically there's going to be a head wall over here, and the engineer, Dushan, is going to change, pull back that head wall so there's more space. And you can see there won't be any impact on the adjacent property owners. So that's coming in the next revision for the head wall. And then you can see there's an open area here for the for a swale, or there's going to be bank in this location for the stream, and we're changing the substrate, which was riprap previously. We're changing it to a natural round stone or stone substrate. So that's one of the changes. We can specify what that substrate will be, what the stone will be, but it's going to be a natural stone now, so it has more wildlife habitat value. And then after this section of where the culvert is, the other area where it daylights, and down in the splash pad, we are going to also use natural stone in these locations. And this is something we discussed with Jennifer and Mark. So we're glad to make those changes, and we're doing that. So you don't have the details on those yet, but we will have the details on the plan that'll be submitted with our notice of intent update. And as far as all of the questions that have been raised so far that haven't been answered, those will also be answered in this notice of intent update. So the other thing that's also changed is the bordering land subject to flooding, as far as the impacts for the compensatory storage area. You can see the configuration has been adjusted a little bit, so it's not so close to where the slope is over here. It was much steeper slope. It's been readjusted, and it kind of fits much better with the relocation of the basin, as you can see here. So this is the area of the compensatory storage here in blue. The other thing that's also been changed, before the culvert was the channel here was a little off, so that it was up against the embankment. It has been relocated, so it now is not up against the embankment, because there was some concerns about future erosion and destabilization in the area of the crossing. So that has also been adjusted. So those are the major adjustments that we have made to the plan since the commission has last looked at it, and Jennifer. So what we'd like to open it up to any questions.
Yeah, just the one thing to actually to get some input from the commission is that, right, since we separate flood compensatory storage area from the wetland application, so we actually don't need as big of a flood compensatory storage area. So we only filled about 400 square feet, but we are providing 1,900. So if the commission prefers smaller one, we can probably cut this one at least to a third of it, or maybe cut 1,000 off, maybe just to do a 2-to-1 floodplain compensatory storage area, just like we did for wetland application. So that's just one thing we like to probably get the commission input. So then when we do the final one, we can shrink that. So especially if there's a tree still, probably can be avoided any tree cuttings.
So the idea there is to decrease the amount of disturbance in the compensatory storage that we're
That's
having.
correct. Yeah, because we only filled about 420 or something square feet of floodplain. And so before we were trying to combine wetland application and the flood compensatory storage creation. So therefore the area is much bigger.
Got it. So I think before I go, Jennifer, do you have any comments?
Just that it's certainly heading in the right direction. I'm curious about the soil testing in each of the basins. Has that been done according to the DEP regs yet?
We did enough, but we saw obviously the test basin number 1, we have not done that, but by moving to the downstream side, it's probably not going to be an active move. So we agreed with water current, so we will do conformation testing during the construction. So you can see we have a test bit 1, we have many test bits throughout the site.
Well, that looks like one test bit. There should be at least 2 in that detention, in that infiltration basin 2, and at least 1 in infiltration basin 1. Or
yeah, if it's a required, then we probably have to go back to the site. We will agree with Wooden Current. They feel there's enough test bit to get the overall groundwater condition for the entire site. So they agree that we can just do confirmation during the construction.
well, that's their suggestion. It's not
Right.
that the two representatives are agreeing to anything. That's the Conservation Commission's decision. But
Right, yeah. So if it is, we will have to go back to do get a backhoe, whatever we need to do. So.
Jennifer?
yeah, I'm trying to see if there was anything else. I think just the notes on the daylighting. Maybe you can zoom in that area again for me, please, Garrett.
Certainly.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Pull it up again.
Yeah, you're right. You're right on it. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I mean, you're certainly daylighting the pipe, but I don't know that I would call it daylighting a natural channel if it's going to be grassed and not really a stream. But not that it shouldn't be what you're proposing, just maybe not call it that. I mean, you might want to just call it, daylighting a swale, because that's what you're making. And this is a stormwater feature. It's not really a stream at that point. If there's riprap above it, it's a grass swale, and then riprap on either side of the stream.
Yeah, they are
either side of the box culvert. Yeah.
Yeah, the upstream have a stream, so this is whatever how to call it is probably not as critical. We were trying to establish using like a 3-inch minus sandy gravel substrate, which mimics the existing channel condition downstream and upstream. So it will be pretty much in long run, they're going to be turned into a real stream channel because that's continuous from the original.
So I'm curious about why it doesn't go through the bottom of the culvert. Is that what you're proposing, or it's just not shown that way?
No, this is probably one of the things. So Garrett, so can you turn to maybe the second page that you marked? Is this
Sure.
the first page or?
This is the first page, yes. Sheet 15?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, this is the overall. There's a channel in our last submission. So the 48-inch pipe at the bottom, we have a 2.5 foot of a channel, and you can see. And so the channel is continued. No, not here. The channel is continued. So the box covered at the bottom does have go under the roadway. Yeah, it probably didn't draw, but in the detail, there's a trapezoidal channel through the 48-inch box. Culvert is going to be embedded for 12 inches so that we can shape natural substrate channel.
Okay, so it will be embedded with the same material that you're showing in that orangey color on upstream and downstream of the box culvert, so that it is contiguous.
No, that's much bigger stone because it's just for when the water get out of the culvert. Usually they tend to have a expansion hydraulic, so eroding force. So we put a little bit larger size downstream. Upstream, actually, we don't need it. Actually, just downstream, we need a 10-inch. Mix the round natural stone, but not going to be. We probably can cut down too, so probably just need to cut to half of it.
And if you were proposing or claiming that it was meeting stream crossing standards, then it should be consistent all the way through. So you may want to take a look at that again before your final plan submittal.
So here's, we already, that's one thing I need to get the commission's input. As you know, before it's like a 2 18-inch pipe. The only thing we do need is the opening. So the stream crossing, which is tend to be more like in a perennial river. For 0.25. So our case, we increased the openness by over 30%, over 30 times than existing. And so, the culvert is much shorter compared with original culvert is over 100. So it's a twin pipe. So we cut it into really short, much shorter, and daylighted a good section of it. But if anything getting up trapped in, just as you said, the channel, up there is still 2 18-inch pipes. So there's not really much benefit to put a much bigger box culvert just for the openness, and which trapping probably creatures go up, they go passing over.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything about making it a bigger culvert. I'm saying the substrate in the stream has to match the substrate in your embedded box culvert. So if you're picking different size stone all the way through, in different sections, then it may not meet that, and you should take a look at that before you submit your final thing. That's all.
Okay, so but you are not asking, so we have to fully meet the stream crossings, those requirements. We are significantly improved. So we did talk to Fish and Wildlife in the review process. Originally, they even feel 36-inch pipe is already a tremendous improvement, because 36-inch compared with the 18 is basically twice of cross-section area compared with 2 18-inch pipe.
Well, Natural Heritage will have different regulations than the Wetland Protection Act, so you would need to meet performance standards for bank under Wetland Protection Act. So we're not really trying to debate that here, because you're just providing a progress print. My suggestion is just make sure that matches and you meet those standards for bank when you submit your final plan.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, we actually creating more banks, right? So that's I'm trying to get a rough before the culvert is ending here, and we technically only alter this section. The above is just the two pipes. So we will get.
We'll take a look at. We'll take a look at this.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll tell you the details.
Mike, do you have a question?
I was just going to say, I don't want to belabor the point. We'll work with Jennifer and Mark and Sheng and Garrett, and we'll make sure it's to what the commission's looking for.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, anything else, Jennifer? So Mark, Garrett, can you just zoom out a little bit so we can see the locations of the homes again?
Certainly. Hold on a second.
There was a question that was related to one of the home locations and whether or not there's an existing building on the lot already, and there was some concern whether or not it made sense to not try and locate a current. I think you have to go back to 14 to see it.
Okay, we'll do. So I'm back on 14.
So the existing home is probably near that second. Yeah.
There you go.
So where's the existing building that's on the property
I
right
think
now?
that's it right here, right?
No, that's a mission field. So this is a
Okay.
proposed plan. So we.
Oh, there isn't an existing
we
underlaid.
probably
Okay.
have to show if you want to. I think it's roughly looking the existing driveways coming right cross parking lot coming in, I think in this area. So
So-
between,
So the question, so the comment that was made was that trying to minimize the amount of disturbance to existing forest area is to try and locate one of the homes near the location of the existing building that's on the lot to decrease the amount of disturbance you're going to have in the forest. Because one of the concerns that we have here that we haven't talked about yet tonight here is wildlife, right? Because we have rare species on this property, and I know that Natural Heritage has indicated that this is going to result in a take, and that we need to get a conservation management plan in place. But you still also need to meet our guidelines with regards to wildlife habitat as well. So it isn't just enough to meet natural heritage; it's enough to meet what we're going to want for wildlife habitat as well. So I just want to make sure that that's clear here. That the letter we got from Natural Heritage is a starting point; it is not the end point, because we need to make sure that the habitat for this rare species on this property is protected. Now, one of the concerns I have is that Natural Heritage has already told us that it's a take, and how are we going to offset that in order to be able to move forward? One of the concerns that I have is that I know there was some talk about making a donation into a statewide fund. That isn't necessarily protecting the habitat that we're disturbing here. That might meet Natural Heritage's criteria, but it's a little bit more of a problem for us in Easton, because that habitat isn't going to get replaced here in Easton. So.
yeah, so Lloyd, just for that comment, this plan was revised actually to address LEC's comment about the bylaw requirement or mitigation have to be on site. So the whole disturbance was pulled back. Right now, we are providing 2-to-1 mitigation on site. Before was partially mitigation and partially fee-based contribution. So
Okay.
that one is already take care if you read Mark LEC's comments. So
Yep.
we are meeting the bylaws habitat requirements.
So I think it's going to be important for you to have that discussion with us, maybe even have a narrative about how you're meeting those criteria, so that it's clear to the commission when we go to vote on this, that not in addition to the CMP that's going to get in place for Natural Heritage, that we're meeting it on site here in the site. This has been one of the sensitive topics on this particular development. And so I just want to make sure that you guys are putting enough information forward to us so that we don't have to read between the lines to get there. You guys should be boxing it up for us so that we can see it clearly, and so that there isn't any variation in thought about exactly what is happening as far as protecting the species on this property. I mean, one of the problems with this particular rare species is it has a wide migratory pattern, and so it can go over 1,000 feet. So that upland, the upland is its habitat. So even though it's not a wetland resource, in this case it's wildlife habitat, which is a wetland resource. So just realize that that's going to be a concern of ours. I'm just making sure that it gets voiced right today. You're looking for feedback from us.
Yes.
And I just
Appreciate it. Yes, we agree. We agree on that. As in the plan set, so today we didn't show, there is a dedicated plan to show the forest alteration and the buffer zones to the mitigation area. So it's color coded. So today we didn't. We're trying to, we
understood.
agreed on.
Yeah, and I'm trying to keep us big picture as well.
Yes.
So, and I understand that that's what today is about. So I'm trying to keep us big picture as well. So, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, related to that topic, I think on the previous go-around with this project, the commission voted to hold a CR. Is that accurate or not? And if the board didn't vote, would the board be interested? I know you're going to want to see a CR plan and all this stuff, but would the board be interested in holding the CR? Because as you guys know, we have to move forward with natural heritage. That's going to be one of the magic questions. Who holds the CR?
I don't think this board has hesitated to hold CRs, so.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
No, I mean, you have the one across the street, so it makes sense to have this one as well, but I figured I'd throw it out there while we're doing big picture stuff.
We want to do what's best here. I know there's another landlocked lot that nobody even knows the owner of that's behind this. I mean, so I know that there's corridors here for the habitat. I just want to protect it. You know that that's going to be one of the things that I'm going to be I'm concerned about, as well as I'm sure the other commissioners as well. We talk about this when we get into these sensitive pieces of property. This is always a strong concern of ours. So we have a lot of habitat in this town, and even though we're looking at a 6-unit development here, you know, we're trying to do our best to protect the habitat as well as the wetland resources. So
Understood.
I think sometimes it's easy for us to get into talking about streams and vegetated wetlands and sort of lose sight of that 1,000-foot, 1,200-foot migratory upland habitat for these rare species. So that's just something to consider. Any other comments from the commission before I go to public comment? Okay, so I got head shakes, so we're good. So any, I'm just going to go to public comment here, okay, unless you guys have something.
One final question, just as Jennifer just commented on. So I'd like to, again, to have, because it will affect all what we need to follow up. So for the soil testing, if the food and currents recommendation, we agree with it, is it sufficient for the commission to move on, or the commission would like to do more soil testing?
So my preference, my personal preference, I'm one of 4 commissioners, 3 here tonight. My preference is on this particular property where we have a lot of sensitive things going on, is that we probably do things to the letter of the requirement, and that I would probably not want to condition that. I'd say if you're going to do the soil testing, let's get it done. Let's get it done up front so that we're 100% aware of any potential impacts to wildlife habitat, wetland resources, whatever it is. I'd rather have all the information up front. This is going to be one of these things where you're going to have to hit every single mark, and there's a lot of marks to hit. And so I really think that it's much better for you to go back out and do another test pit number 2 and another test pit number 1. Okay? So, does that make sense? That answers the question, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so is any comments from other commissioners? Like I said, I'm just the chair.
I agree with Rory on that.
Second that.
Okay, so you got 3 people saying that you should give us the test pit. Soil testing, okay?
All right, no, that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad you asked. I really do appreciate it. Any public comment, 58 Mill Street? So seeing none, I'm going to echo Jennifer's comments that these are all everything heading in the right direction. Okay, so I think this plan is different than what we saw originally a couple of years ago. It's different than what we saw just a few months ago. The collaboration that is going on here between the agent and the consultants and the applicant is how to get this done. Okay, so I appreciate that because otherwise this was going to be a real challenge. And I think we're getting to a point where we can see what this looks like, and we have a vision to being able to understand what the wetland and wildlife impacts are. Okay, so when are we going to continue this to? So remember, December 6th would really mean you'd have to have a fast turnaround time.
Yeah, no, we're not going to have anything for December 6th. I think it makes sense to schedule it for the 20th, and our goal is to have everything submitted to you by the 6th, maybe a couple days later, depending how you got Thanksgiving and all that stuff coming up. That would give Jennifer and Mark and you all a week or two, at least 10 days to look at everything, so we can come back and have a meaningful discussion on the 20th. Does that make sense to Shang and Garrett? I
Yes.
got you.
Yeah, so yeah, we will so do the soil testing because that's what I was not expected originally, but we have to do. I think it's the chairman made a good point. So since we have to do, why wait? Just do it. Get it done. So I need to talk. I will talk to Greg, and then so hopefully he can try to schedule something in. Even I know we Thanksgiving next week, so we are basically taking time off, but I will hopefully can squeeze a day to finish it if we can get a machine.
Okay, Jennifer, does that timeline feel okay to you?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, we're pushing everything to the 20th. You have a busy couple of weeks. Okay, so make a motion to continue 58 Mill Street to December 20th.
Any second?
Okay, roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carl, I.
Beatty, aye.
Okay, thanks. So that's Caulfield's with the motion, Spady was second, 3-0 to continue to December 20th. I really appreciate the time tonight, everyone, and I appreciate your cooperation continued on this. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Take
Good
care.
evening.
Okay, so next up is 560 Foundry Street. I don't think we have anybody here for this. So they had originally asked for a continuance to December 6th. I think there's a relatively small likelihood that that's possible.
The general consensus is they would not have that information by the 6th. I know the applicant's representative was aiming to have all documents before 11/22, but
the problem with that is that
No.
11/22, we're going to need this is going to be a longer review than normal.
Yeah.
So even if they got 11/22 with the holiday in the middle there's almost no way we get reviewed for December 6th. Even if we agree that 11/22 is feasible for them, it doesn't get reviewed.
I agree.
Because you're going to lose 2 or 3 days at least on that Thanksgiving week. So there's only 1 or 2 days, and then you've got the week after. So I really don't think it's reasonable. So I hate to push another one to the 20th, but is that what we're looking at here?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna vote on a continuance to the 20th as opposed to the requested date of the 6th from the applicant. So make a motion to issue a continuance for 560 Foundry to December 20th.
Carl, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Beatty, aye.
Okay, so Caulfield's with the motion, Carol with the second, 3-0 to continue to December 20th. Okay, so next up is 170 Chestnut Street. This is a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. Now, this is one we got an email to continue today to December 20th.
December 20th. The email was they're waiting for Shang to flag the resource areas. And Frank started the topo, but hasn't finished it. So I did, let them know we're gonna need that at least 2 weeks ahead of time. I mean, if
Okay,
you have.
so this one I'm actually less confident they can get us this by the 6th, and because this is another one which actually is going to take a pretty significant amount of time of Jennifer's group. We've already pushed 2 things into the December 20th time frame that are pretty significant. I am pretty uncomfortable with that date, the 20th. What's that?
Oh, you're thinking move it to January?
Yeah. I mean, we can put it on the 20th, but
I think it's okay to put it on the 20th, knowing that we'll probably continue again, because I don't know that they'll finish that if they haven't finished I'm not sure what the flagging is anyway, because they gave them comments and I flagged where I think the line should move. So
Okay,
I think
so
they were stuck on the topo and maybe didn't start that as quickly as,
I think there was some concerns about it, and I think they finally got beyond that. So it took them a little bit of time to get pushed past that. So I'm going to make a motion to continue 170 Chestnut Street to December 20th as requested.
80 a second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
80 aye.
So that's a Caulfield's. Who seconded Spady a second?
Yes.
This is all just for Tish. That's all. I'm just reiterating things. She likes it when I do that. So Caulfield's with the motion, Spady with the second. Continue to December 20th. 19 Emily Lane. They had already previously continued to December 6th.
yes,
Did we already vote on that?
yes,
Okay, so we don't have to re-vote on this?
nope.
Okay. Okay, next up is a certificate of compliance for 15 Gyra Lane. I have 0 questions.
No, they're ready for a full certificate.
Yep, everything was out of the wetlands and there wasn't anybody mowing in the back part, so. Any public comment, 15 Gyra Lane? I didn't see any commission comment. Okay, seeing none, make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 15 Gyra Lane.
Carol, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
80 aye.
Caulfield's with the motion, Carol with the second. 3-0. 181 Purchase Street. This is certificate of compliance. Any questions?
Nope, they're ready for a full.
I'm just trying to remember. Oh yeah, I remember this one. This is a small little house with the backyard. Septic system's almost all over. Any public comment? 181 Purchase. Seeing none. Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 181 Purchase Street.
Spady a second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
80 aye.
Caulfield's with the motion. Spady a second. 106 Massapog Ave. Certificate of compliance for septic system.
Ready for a full?
Any comments? Any public comment? 106 Massapog Ave. Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 106 Massapog Ave.
Carol, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
80 aye.
Caulfield's with the motion. Carol second. 3-0. Okay, so meeting minutes. Did you guys get a chance to look at them? You want me to? We can vote on them tonight.
I'm going to apologize. I saw those about 5 minutes before I signed on and did not get a chance to review them.
Okay, so do you want me to postpone this so you can review them, or what do you want to do?
I'm okay to vote on them if other folks have looked at them.
I give it a quick look. I mean, I'm not great at that stuff, but I didn't look bad at me. I have no review.
So why don't we just? I really think that these are fairly straightforward. There's 2 minor changes on October 18th. On 81 Summer Street, there's a motion to continue. In the motion itself, it says it was motion to continue 19 Emily. It should be changed to 81 Summer. And there is a word on page 4 at the end of the environmental planner updates. In the last line, it says disturbed to property owner's applicant. It should be distributed. So change disturbed to distributed. Make a motion to approve the minutes with the 2 changes as noted for October 18th.
Spady a second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Beatty, aye.
Caulfield's with the motion, Spady a second, 3-0. On the November 1st minutes, the only thing is the last page should be deleted with some extra page. The minutes actually stop on this previous page. So other than that, I have no other changes. Any comments? Make a motion to accept the minutes for November 1st with the minor change of deleting the last page.
Beatty, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Beatty, aye.
Okay, Caulfield's motion, Spady a second, 3-0. Okay, thank you for indulging me on that. Appreciate it. And next up is the environmental planner updates regarding, there's a topic here about regulation revisions.
Yes. Did you want to see the clean version?
Sure.
All right, so this is just the cleaned up section and made the changes for decks and patios under 300 square feet, sheds under 200 square feet. Those are basically the areas where town council, giving them a little bit of heartburn, I guess, that it's an actual square footage. It seems fine with the distance from wetland resource areas.
Right.
He just seems to be having a hard time with the square footage. And then item D, he doesn't think it's necessary to call out at all that clarification about in-ground pools, just cross that one out altogether. Those are his two comments, maybe from a week ago. I do have an appointment to see him tomorrow, so we'll go over them again. And I also want to make sure that it doesn't require a bylaw change, which I didn't think from the beginning when I first asked. It didn't seem like one was required, but I want to confirm that tomorrow before we schedule a public hearing on it.
Okay, so from my standpoint, I like the square footage because it gives both you and the applicants some sort of sense of the scale of what we're talking about. And so I think that was our approach here, is if we felt the scale was small enough and the disturbance was small enough that it could be administratively handled. So I like the square footage because it gives everybody a clear expectation of what we're talking about when we're talking about minimal projects.
Yes.
So I'm in favor of keeping the square footage in play. Comments from Mike and Ben?
Yeah, I don't know how we would do this without the square footage.
Exactly.
It'd be tougher for me to go out and have people say, well, you gave the other person an administrative approval on their deck, why don't I have one?
Right.
It'd be a little tougher. I'll certainly bring that up to him tomorrow just to make sure, you know, there's no issue with that.
Do we have any explanations to what the issue is with listing a specific amount of square footage?
I think it was more trying not to have the regs sort of pin you into a certain spot. But I agree with you. I think this makes it easier so people know, oh, well, they got the administrative approval because they were under 300 square feet and mine's 350, so I don't really qualify.
I think we've drawn the line where we're comfortable getting pinned in. You know, I think that's just, I think that we're okay being, you know, that's what you said was the right amount. And I kept it under that amount, so I want to get approved administratively. But the other thing is you still have discretion in the field to say, this one's, even though it's 280,
yeah, you
know, it's in an area that's too much slope, you know, we've got to deal with this. So I think that's, I mean, I like that part of this particular thing. So I'm okay with that. I actually think we can delete the line about the in-ground pools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's redundant once you read it after somebody says.
Exactly.
After someone points to it.
They said, why is this in here again? You know, I said, but then I went to the previous section. I know why it's there, but I think we should just take it out. Plus, he gets one, we get one. So.
Yeah.
It's much easier to read when it's a clean copy.
Oh, sorry.
Definitely. Definitely.
So, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the fee for the septic system was $150, and we've already looked at that, so I don't know that you need me to put it up on the screen.
So the only question I have is in the FAQ document, it says 200. And,
Oh, thank you.
And so in the actual regs, it says 150. I'm fine with it being 150. I just would want it to be changed in the FAQ.
Nope, thanks for pointing that out.
Yep.
Any other questions you think I should add to the FAQ?
No, I thought it was great. I really, it made it very clear to me what we were trying to do and why we were doing it, and what the guidelines were going to be for anybody who was thinking about it. How do they go about doing it? Send in that wetland inquiry form.
Yeah.
I really, it laid every question I had about it. And I'm trying to think as a homeowner. It seemed to me like it answered those questions for me. So.
Okay, good. Well, that's all I have on proposed reg changes.
Okay, excellent. So you'll talk to him tomorrow, and then
I will.
We'll figure out where to go in a public hearing.
Yeah, so if he says, okay, do you want me to advertise it for the meeting of the 6th? So that we have the actual public discussion and we're ready to adopt. And if he says, no, we have other work to do, then obviously I won't do that.
So the only question I'm having, and I'm open to discussion on this, so Carol seems to have been in support of this particular change. Normally, I wouldn't want to sort of make that decision without her.
Oh, okay.
But does anybody think that we should, or do you think that we should allow her to have some additional comments on this before we go to public hearing?
I can reach out to her separately. Otherwise, we're pushing it to the meeting of the 20th.
Yeah.
We might not be pushing it to the meeting of the 20th.
And I think we've talked about these changes at 2 or 3 meetings now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't get the feeling that she had strong issues with anything, so I'm okay with advertising.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I just, and it's okay. I mean, it just may come out that she has more questions at the public hearing than we would expect that the commission members have.
I'll send her a note that says
Yeah.
It looks like we're okay. We crossed out that one section. We plan to advertise it the next time, but wanted to make sure you had a chance to comment beforehand if you did.
Perfect.
So you want me to make a motion to issue this for a public hearing on December 6th?
I don't think it needs a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Good enough. Just a couple of things from me. There were, I received a note by email last week about some open meeting law trainings and state ethics commission seminars that were happening. If anyone's interested, I'm happy to send them along to you. The open meeting law are on November 16th and December 9th, one's at 9:30 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. And the state ethics commission seminars are on December 2nd at 10 a.m. and January 27th at 10 a.m. So if anybody's interested, just let me know and I'll forward them to you. I can forward it to the entire commission. Maybe I'll do that after the meeting, just let you know when they are. The other thing is that, Jennifer, if you could just, I think we have to get a schedule for next year together.
Oh, yeah. We already drafted it.
Well then.
I forgot to give it to you.
So maybe we could review that at the next meeting.
Oh, all right. It should be a lighter meeting, maybe.
Maybe we just keep on pushing everything to the 20th and then the 6th.
I did forget to mention that the wetland restoration excavation work for Sam Wright Field has been advertised. The 22nd at the site at 9 a.m. I'm just doing a pre-bid meeting and the actual bids are due on the 12th, 6th. So maybe we'll have some information that night too.
Oh, good. That'd be great to have some bids. The only other thing I just want to offer up to anybody who, as you can tell, I actually make it out to almost every site. And if anybody ever wants to go out to a particular site together, I'm happy to do that. If we get more than two of us, we would have to sort of advertise it, or we'd have to be very careful about how we conduct ourselves during that meeting. We could go out and have a site walk without any deliberation or discussion related to the wetland regs application, but we could, just have an observational meeting where we just talk about, the specific site. So you have to be a little bit careful if there's more than two of us. I am more than happy to do that. I go out and I don't talk to anybody, so it makes no difference. That's not true. I talk to homeowners. So, but if anybody ever wants to go out, I usually go out on a Saturday or Sunday, the weekend before the meeting. I'm pretty flexible on my time doing it if it fits better one day or the other for everybody. If there's one particular site that you want to go to, we can set up a time to go there. I'm the guy who goes to every COC. I go to, but you don't have to do that. But I'm just putting my eyes on. I'm just offering it up there. And certainly, Ben, if you ever wanted to visit, if you haven't been out to 560 Foundry Street,
Yeah.
You should probably go out with Mike or me.
Yep.
Mike's been out there a lot more. He might be able to give you a little bit more insight as to where all the stuff is located,
Yep.
and where it's it's easy to look at a plan, but to get out in literally the woods and the streams there, you better have some boots.
More than boots. Better know how to swim.
I was gonna wear my loafers. No.
Yeah.
It might be better.
But I just would suggest that those type of things are very beneficial to start to understand things that don't translate well onto plans.
Totally agree.
Vegetation is hard to see on a plan. Even the slope sometimes doesn't really come across the same in person as it is on a plan. So, so I just encourage y'all. I am more than willing. I do it already. It's a couple hours out of my weekend that I do it, and sometimes less. And happy to meet you out there. And I think that's about it. Any other comments from anybody? Okay. I appreciate it. Jen, we almost did it. We're getting better. So I'm going to accept the motion.
Well, Ben, it's
I think it was from Mike, seconded by Ben.
Motion from Spadia to adjourn, seconded by Carol.
Give it to Ben.
Sounds good.
Roll call vote. Paul Fells, aye.
Carol, I.
Spady, aye.
Okay, Spadia with the motion, Carol with the second. 3-0 to adjourn. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hey,
Happy
guys.
Thanksgiving.
Right.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.